is likely pushing more people toward irregular roads, not fewer. So let's see what is actually driving people to leave KRI and why. The chart before you, now you are seeing a chart, shows the relative weight of 5 push factors. Economic stagnation registers highest. It is the highest one, and with good reason. I mean, the Kurdistan regional government has faced a protracted budget crisis with civil servant salaries delayed. We are experiencing every month the multiplier effect of that delayed salary, unpaid for months at a time. For example, they have like delayed 3 months of the last year still. And that has a huge impact on economy of people because they don't know how to decide, how to plan their life. The private sector cannot absorb the graduates that university are producing. That's one of the other reasons. Sometimes the universities graduate and, private and public, they are not opening the department based on the need of the market. They are just graduating people. The result is a generation of educated young people, doctors, engineers, teachers with qualifications and no meaningful future. The second statistic, the indicative estimate, and then I'll tell you why I'm calling that indicative estimate, that educated migrants make up approximately 40% more than the share of the general population. Is not a surprising finding, it is a logical one. It is the people who invested most in their future, who feel most actually the, like, when that future does not, how can I say, materialistic for them.
Materialized, yeah.
Yeah, and then there is a 304,000, that number. That's not an abstraction, of course. That is a Syrian refugee hosted inside the Kurdistan region of Iraq in 2024, confirmed precisely by UNHCR. And the Kurdistan region at the same time out-migration and major host of displaced people. And what is the reason of that? Here, let's say there are some people who they have their own comfort zone. While there are so many refugees come to this small region with that like not stable economic situation, so they think about going somewhere else to find a better life. So now, why people want to leave? The next question is, what has the UK actually done in response? There are so many other reasons, but in that short period of time of this presentation, I can only say, like highlight these big forces. But what the UK is doing, like in response of this thing, 3 pillars, UK strategy, as I'm seeing and based on my research, it is 3 pillars. One of them is digital deterrence, security cooperation, and enforcement. What do you mean by digital deterrence campaign? Like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. What they do. And this is related to my background, as I'm teaching management and marketing. What is one of the problems that, like, personally I'm seeing in their campaign? The way they talk, the way they organize the message. It is English and translated word by word into Kurdish. It is not effective. Like the way I see the advertisement, the warnings that they publish on social media. And they are targeting everyone, which is not, they are not efficiently manage the cost of these digital campaigns. The strategy, like, it is sound in theory, not practical. If you can undercut the smuggler's narrative before someone pays £8,000 to cross the channel in inflatable dinghy, that small boat, you have saved a life. The problem, which we will examine on the next slide, is that the campaign is trying to win an information war, while the government at the same time removes the legal alternative. It is like pointing people toward. And the UK-Iraq Security Agreement of November 2024 is significant, of course. £300,000 for Iraqi border law enforcement training, £200,000 for Kurdistan region-specific projects. This is a genuine institutional commitment, but it is investment measured in hundreds of thousands against a problem measured in billions of dollars of economic underdevelopment. So sometimes it will be difficult. Look at these numbers. Like 190 arrests, 347 network disruptions, a record high in 40% increase on the previous year, 116 boats seized. These are not like trivial achievements, but here is the critical question. If disruptions are at record highs, why are crossings still happening? Those disruptions tell us the enforcement response is active. As in the next two slides, we'll show why actively alone cannot solve this. We are not just need to be active. So if you look at this curve, and I think this is the main trigger of this problem. Is it? Can you see the legal pathway, right? Do you see the slide? Yes. Look at the trajectory on this chart. From 2020 to 2023, UK resident visa grants rose steadily from base of 100 to an index of 135. Post-pandemic normalization, labor market demand, international students, a system opening then 2024, a 33% collapse. It means 951,000 grants, down from 1,409,000 from the last year. The causes are well documented. Restrictions on student dependence, caps on health and care workers visa, co-worker visas. These are domestic political decisions made for domestic political reason, but they have direct international consequences. One that official policy appear not to have fully anticipated. Here is the structural logic. When you tell someone that legal road is closed or harder, you do not like extinguish their desire to reach safety or opportunity. You redirect it. You tell the person in another way, like go and find some illegal path. Or simply once you are telling them in your marketing campaign, in your deterrence campaign, don't come illegally. So you have to have a better plan for those who are planning to enter your country legally. I'll be in deep with that point. So this chart explains why deterrence campaigns struggles. But we discussed the next challenge thing. In the next slide, I'm giving you a comment from a smuggler while trying to persuade some of the some people to migrate illegally, which is very bad, by the way. In this graph, what we see, this is the most analytically powerful slide, by the way. I love this data. When they are come together, it tells us something else. This pie chart shows asylum outcome for small boat arrival. Look at this. 68% granted protection. Like 68% of those who made the wrong decision, who choose the wrong channel, 68% of them granted protection. The cumulative average, I mean, from 2018 to 2024, confirmed by migration at Oxford. 24% refused and 8% pending. This is the problem. Smugglers simply win this argument. They are saying, okay, let's take myself as an example. You have to have a high level of IELTS. You have to pay a part of your study fee, let's say, here before you travel. You have to show, like there are so many paperwork you have to follow. And at the end of the day, still you are not sure that you get the visa. But the smuggler will tell you and win the argument. You don't need that headache. Just give me £8,000 and I'll find you a way. When you go there, that's another thing. When I went to the UK, I had to pay all the things by myself. But the smuggler here again win the argument in another way. Smugglers telling people, if you go illegally, once like you granted, you got something, then everything will be free for you, like education, healthcare, I don't know, whatever related to your living cost. While an international student doing everything, or let's say someone with a skilled worker visa doing everything and struggling like things related to living cost, but the way that the illegal migrants, they are facing less obstacle. This is the downside of the system, or the adjustment, or the thing that we are trying to solve. What a person in Suli or Erbil, 2 cities in Kurdistan, facing, like, look at this calculation, 68% chance of protection via a danger boot crossing versus an unknown probability through an legal system with a 33% rejection in visa grants. And in the next slide, this one, we are focusing on smuggling network challenge. The flow diagram on this slide, Kurdistan region recruitment, Turkey transit, European movement, channel crossing, maps a sample supply chain. They all together, if you look at the big map, it looks like a supply chain. It is not like something disrupted. They are interconnected. It is a professional criminal infrastructure. That's the thing. With a customer acquisition strategies, logistical networks, and rapid response communication teams. If you try the illegal way, they are practicing a best customer relationship with you. They are not leaving any question without answer. But while you are going for the legal thing, sometimes some people call that procedure while you apply for a visa to visit UK, they call it as a gambling. Some people thinking that way. The information, smugglers do things that government campaigns cannot easily replicate. They control the narrative in communities the government cannot easily reach. They exaggerate UK opportunities, as we said in the previous meeting. They exaggerate the UK opportunities in a ways that are difficult to immediately disprove. They minimize journey risk to overcome natural human caution, and they respond to government deterrence message within hours. That's the thing. Sometimes when I see a message from the UK government, while it is spread on social media, after a while you see different activities from smugglers. They're trying to attack the message and to offer something better than the message is trying to convince. The government challenge is explicit, like deterrence message compete with smugglers who have direct client relationships, can personalize their promise. Like they come to, for example, their relative. The smugglers are relative with those who are going to the UK in illegal way. So sometimes they personalize the thing to them. Critically offer solutions when legal pathways appear inaccessible, as they claim. A government poster saying don't come, it is danger, is competing with a WhatsApp message from a cousin who made it. Which of them do you follow? Like government, UK government, showing us a small, short video. The message is that a broken message, while they're translating or interpreting the message into Kurdish, it is just a word-by-word translation. Simply says don't come. While smugglers, they have so many stories. They are showing people, okay, that person, he had nothing 2 years ago. And I made the path to that person to the UK, and now he has this amount of money. Or this is the lifestyle of this person. So we have to change the way we advocate this issue. And policy coherence, are you like, did I say too much? Are you following? Like if you want to have a comment, it is okay. Whenever you want, just tell me any explanation or any detail if you need.
Okay, well, would people like to put their yellow hands up if they do want to
Whenever you,
intervene? But I'm following it fairly well. I don't know about other people.
okay. So
Fine, it's fine to carry on, Barlam.
Yeah.
okay.
It's very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. This is my strategy, by the way. Even in my classes, when I talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I stop and I ask my student whether they are following or they have anything rather than continuing the presentation. That's why I just asked that question. So what is the thing here on the slide? UK government priorities. Each legitimate in isolation, security, counter terrorism, and regional stability, economic support, supporting UK businesses and trade relations, and in development, women capacity building and institutional strengthening in Iraq, and for the migration, reducing irregular flows and managing asylum claims. The problem is not that any individual objective is wrong. As we said from the very beginning about this topic, we migrate across the world from a country to another. And if you go back to history, this is something very normal. But how? The question is that how you do that. The problem is that they are not coherent as a system. Economic policy may demand labor from Iraq and Kurdistan. Migration policy at the same time restrict that labor. That's the conflict. Development policy invest in Kurdistan institutional capacity. Security policy funds enforcement against the people that development failure is generating. Each department is optimizing for its own objective while undermining the objective for the others. So we have to make a link between these departments and the goal of this department to understand better and to have a more efficient outcome. It is like a process, a systematic process. As you know, the difference between process and systematic process, in systematic, we have input, process, and output. Here we have the input, which is the forces that affecting people to live. And we have the output that the consequences we have at the UK on arrival. But the problem is with the processing. We are not processing very well. And this slide is against me, but as a part of, to show that I'm not biased, these are critical evidence gaps. 5 gaps, evidence gaps, each one is significant. Together they are like, you will see that the picture when you combine them together. First, Iraqi national are not disaggregated by region in UK migration data. We know how many Iraqis arrived, but we don't know how many were Kurds. We cannot therefore design a space like something in particular targeted policy responses. What I mean by that, the way you target Iraqi people is different when you target a Kurdish people. The example that I provided to you, the way they talk about the campaign, it was just a translation from English to Kurdish. While this message emotionally can affect an English person, but cannot for Kurdish one. We have to see the cultural differences and the way we understand the process. Second, the most recent comprehensive UK KRI migration review data from 2014 to 2015, 11 years ago. And as you know, that means before the rise of ISIS and before the Syrian refugee crisis, or even before the KRG budget collapse. So you cannot build something on old data. That's why I wish to have that conference, just to have some new data, some first-hand data, and then we can estimate and forecast the future pattern of the migration. What are the policy options for consideration? Deterrence and information, legal channels, and root causes. These 3 columns, these 3 things, we can have better understanding after considering them. By the way, it is not just an argument that enforcement is wrong. It is an argument that enforcement alone, the current emphasis, is structurally insufficient. If you take it alone, cannot work. On deterrence and information, the current campaign can be improved significantly without additional cost. I don't want to go too much deep on the digital media strategy, how it is work. Just for your information, in digital media, we have the social media strategy. We have 3 pillars, which we call it listening, participation, and amplification. We have a problem with amplification. Why? Because we are not listening well in the social media. It is like when you close your eyes and go into on a road without knowing where's the destination of that road. Before you design any social media campaign, you have to understand the nature of the social media of that country, of that culture. It should be evidence-based design, trusted community messengers rather than governmental broadcast, and critically honest information about legal pathway rather than simply warnings and like warning and danger about dangers. You cannot credibly tell people to use the legal road if the legal road is closed. That's a problem. On legal channels, labor market alignment, educational pathways, transparent process, because there's a claim sometimes people say the process is not transparent. Like, I met two people in my university. They said we had the same application. They were applying for the UK for studying purposes. They had the same, when you apply for a UK visa, you have some, how can I say, you have some questions to be answered, you have some things to provide to the UK, then they can grant a visa. That two persons said we were equal, but one of them granted with a visa and the other one was rejected. And I personally had a chance to look at the application draft. Believe me, they were the same. So we need to have more transparent process here in the legal one. There are structural interventions that directly address the incentive problem we identified on slide, I think it was number 7. If there's a legitimate pathway with a known probability of success, the smuggler's core proposition is undermined, of course. And about on root causes, in conflict management, we always say that if you are not aware of the trigger that or the causes of the conflict, it'll be difficult to manage that conflict. So here again, we need to understand the root causes. Root causes, one of them is economic development, youth opportunity, commercial leverage. These are long-term investments, but they are also the only interventions, I think, that address the source rather than managing the symptom. You cannot detail your way out of the structural economic collapse. These options only work if pursued together in coordinated, adaptive way. That is what the final recommendation slide make like concrete. A balanced approach, what we mean by these 6 steps or points. Please note what comes first. Continued enforcement against criminal network. This presentation, of course, is not arguing against enforcement. Criminal smuggling networks cause immense human suffering, like people down. Families are extorted, women are trafficked, and enforcement is necessary. I'm totally agree with that. The argument is that enforcement is not sufficient. And this is just a conclusion of what...
Excuse me, Balan, could you put the slide before this reference back up? Thank you. Yeah, the balanced approach, yeah.
This one?
The one before, the one which had the...
This one?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Just for a minute, yeah?
Yeah. By the way, I can share with you this presentation.
Okay.
You can, I can do it now if you want.
What you put it in the chat, you mean?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Why I'm doing that? Because I think you may go and check these references that I have it here on the reference list. And to conclude my presentation, as I said, like, I wish we had that conference or that event, because we could like have obtained more data and information, because at that conference we could have discussions, links, connections with people. And another problem I may have at this moment, I don't have that much connection with the UK government or with the people who they have information and they have power to design campaigns against illegal migration. And hopefully with the help of you, I think in the future we can try another effort to have something, an event or conference like what was planned for. Thank you for your listening, and that was a long presentation. Sorry for that.
Please, Balance, we need to thank you. You don't need to apologise for us. That was a very comprehensive delivery of information, and I'm sure we're all very appreciative of it. Have I got anyone back, or have I lost everybody now? No, I have got everybody back. Good. And I think that was extremely well presented, and thank you very much. Please don't apologise. We're grateful to you. I didn't get myself up.
Can you put it in the chat, please, your paper?
Yes, I'm just doing it right now.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
I didn't get a chair today. I seem to be chairing myself as an unwise woman, because I'm not the best chair in the world. But let's see how we go. So I'm going to start. I've thanked Belen for his presentation. And if you would like to put your hands up in sequence, the little yellow hands. And I'm going to start off with Graham, who's got his up already. Okay. Right.
Yes. It's your content. Do whatever you want.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Graham. Was that your question? Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the presentation? I mean, it gave us a very large amount of quite dense information. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. Valerie? Richard?
Well, it wasn't really a question. Well, it is a question. From your very good presentation, we can take on board the conclusions. Is the best way forward for Labour International to try to find somebody in the Home Office that might actually understand the problems that are being created by the decisions that the government are making, which appear not to be very effective? Or should we find some other way? I mean, at the moment, it seems that the government is pushing for interventions in the routes by which illegal asylum seekers come to the UK, pretty unsuccessfully, really, because if you close one route, another route will open, and possibly someone's brother will open a new route while his brother is being intercepted by the UK or European police. So to me, that doesn't seem a very effective way of tackling the problem. So the first question is, who do we take all this up with? And the second question is, it does appear that economic intervention in the country of origin of the asylum seekers would be quite expensive to do properly, and therefore most governments are going to be a bit against actually intervening economically, because it's difficult to sell to your local taxpayers, and it's difficult to prove that over the years those economic interventions have worked worldwide. So I wondered if you'd like to comment on the two things. Who do we go to, and will economic intervention actually work if we had the money?
Yeah, for the first question, thank you for insight. For the first question, literally, I don't know whom to contact. Based on that experience I had before, thankfully for Graham, Frankie, Imogen, they did their job in a best way. But now I'm a bit confused because we designed something that fully aligned with the philosophy of the system, with the political situation of the UK, also at the same time aligned with the interest of people here in Iraq and Kurdistan and Middle East. But I don't know what was the problem from my side first. So for the first question, I really don't know, but maybe UK embassies, as it is a political wing of the UK Foreign Office in any country, they should be more precise. With my all respect, I'm saying this. I saw an interview of UK General Consulate of Erbil here in Kurdistan. Most of the answers of the question raised in the interview, if you simply ask AI, you get the same answer. It should be personalized. It should be culture tailored information. It should be related to that, like the politic, the connections should be like a mirroring the cultural background of that people. That's why we have different embassies per countries. They have to adapt their political decisions with the culture, with the community that they are in. And for the second question, yes, it is very much difficult to convince people to think long term. Also, we have that problem here in Kurdistan. Sometimes we are campaigning, we are dealing with this issue. We are telling people, please do not choose the short-term interest. Try to struggle a bit here today, but you will be happy tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But this psychology cannot work always. So that could be another challenge or another perspective of that solution. Thank you for that.
Okay, Richard, do you want to come back on that at all? Richard?
Yeah, no, it was a very clear answer. Thank you very much, Arlen. It was a clear presentation as well, and it raised some issues that I think we in Labour International are in a better position to take up with the UK government than any other part of the Labour Party.
Exactly.
Yes, I mean, I would hope that that is the case, and that we can actually go forward with this. I'm going to turn to Valerie or Tim, or both of you.
It's Valerie.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that, Barlan. It's like a breath of fresh air to hear somebody speak like this. But I don't know whether it's a question really, but I certainly want to say something, which is that so much of this is ideological. And it's ideological writ right through British society from the very top, whether that be the wealthy or the Secret Service or today's government, the City of London, whoever it might be, as you, I am sure, well know from the history of the British Empire. And there are many people in Britain who are in charge who still think as though they have an empire, which means that it's hugely difficult. You talk, and I absolutely agree with you, about adapting to communities, embedding yourself in the cultural background. But so few people have that opportunity in Britain. The majority of, and that's the other problem, that Keir Starmer, for example, is fighting a war with reform, which is leading its adherents, it's the people who follow it, through an anti-immigration, racist dialogue and discourse. And Keir Starmer wishes to squash that, but he's chosen to follow them in terms and offer the people of Britain parallel discourses, which then builds a natural antipathy to other cultures. And that is the major problem that we're looking at here. In 2002, Michael Winterbottom made a film called In This World about two boys who leave Pakistan and cross the world to get to London. Their village saves all the money that the people have in the village in order to pay the smugglers to help them get to London. The journey is absolutely extraordinary, as you can imagine. But when they end up in London, they actually finally find a horrible job sharpening knives in a metal factory. And they live in the most appalling circumstances. So they had bought a dream of the West, which was never going to come to fruition. Now, I would say that our new, I'm sorry about this because it's really black, but I would say that our new Minister of the Home Office really thinks like even though she is not, she is from another culture, ultimately her family, Shabana Mahmood, she has been hired to perpetuate this idea of British values. She never says what they are, and I'm not convinced that they particularly exist personally, but anyway. But she insists that people who come from the other side of the world have to have better values. They have to prove that their British values are better than the values of the British people who were born in Britain. It's a very, very strange discourse that she's using. And so, of course, the whole of the Home Office, which, of course, will be the route that the people who from Kurdistan who want to end up in Britain, that's the route they will have to go through, the Home Office, which is infiltrated from top to bottom by an ideology of the other. Now, I'm sure you know all this and you wish to combat it, but there is serious work to do in school. As you say, it's a long-term project. It's got to start with schools and help young people understand other ways of life, other cultures. And of course, in many schools, like in the school that my granddaughters went to, they were in their class, there were 28 children from different colours from across the world, and then my two granddaughters. They were the only white people in the class in London. And they have learned to respect and have great friendships with many of the children in their class and know their families, etc. But it's a long, as you say, it's a long haul before I think we can adapt or help the British Empire mentality evolve into something which respects the peoples and of other countries across the world. I'm not sure I've got a question there really, but I feel so strongly about this, as you can tell, that I wanted to say it.
Thank you so much.
Ellen, would you like to respond to Valerie's sentiments rather than questions?
Yeah, thank you for your feeling. and the way you structured that insightful feedback. The problem is, like, my experience before I leave the UK, it was March 2025. Someone came to me just near the university, and he told me, okay, now you have the chance to stay. I said, how? And he explained so many, he told me so many stories. Now you can go to that place, that, like, it become a habit. So my focus on two things. One of them, if I have a chance to do that, I'm motivating my people to stay in my country and developing our own country.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay. You can go to the UK, to the US, whatever you want, go and get some experience, a certificate, educate yourself, whatever. It is okay. But at the end of the day, you have to come back and serve your nation, your community.
Mm-hmm.
We have this gap here in Kurdistan. And in response to this huge issue, the way that the UK Home Office is dealing with this problem, I don't think would be sufficient.
No.
And you can see that as we explained in the presentation, if you can see that the way that they reply to the legal visa application, the way that they deal with people through social media, it is a very weak, too weak message that cannot convince even a child, not an adult. So I think there is a gap between the consulate, embassy, and what actually happening in that community.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like the embassy and the consulate, they have a good relation with the politician of my country.
Yeah.
Like they will be invited once or twice a week. They go, they sit with them, like, I don't know, they have a coffee with them. But I mean, my question is that the main responsibility? Is that what they come for? They are here for two things. One of them, cultural exchange, which is very good to have. Well, I don't see. And the other one is to facilitate the process of moving people between these two countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why I cannot have a visa application, like I don't know what it'll be, like ambiguity. When you apply for UK visa, it is ambiguity. You don't know what's happening. Why the procedure is just like that?
But that's deliberate.
While the illegal one is clear, and okay, it is danger, but it is clear.
Yeah.
The smuggler will tell you step by step where to go, what to do, how much to spend. That's a gap.
Yeah, but Keir Starmer, of course, has claimed that he would not expand the legal routes. He doesn't want the legal routes to be expanded. And in fact, only a few weeks ago, Yvette Cooper, the foreign minister, was in Iraq trying to persuade the Iraqis to take the boat immigrants from Britain, as they had done in wherever it was, the one that fell through with Sunak's government, Rwanda. They were trying to do the same with Iraq, for Iraq to take the people who have landed in Britain. Because I think one of the problems for Britain is that since Brexit, when we were in the EU, when the UK was in the EU sorted out immigration, illegal or otherwise, but mostly illegal. And the way they sorted it out was to either send people to Libya, to these horrendous prisons, or they did nothing. They just did nothing. They just parked it as a problem. But now Britain has to deal with this problem on its own. And so it's a relatively recent problem that they didn't have before Brexit. And I don't think they know yet what to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are something we can do as a ally. I think we can provide better solution. At least we can be the lens of the Foreign Office. Be like what I mean by the lens, to have a clean shot of each country. Like I can promise to not be biased and evidence based or data based. I can show reports and causes, consequences of this issue, but it should be some responses from the UK government. We have to have an outcome out of these meetings that we do. And the effective outcome, I think, only from the UK government and Kurdistan regional government.
Problem.
Valerie, do you want to come back on that?
No, I was just thinking that the Scotsman who was prison minister and then he gave it up, who had walked across Afghanistan and been captured. A short man who went for the prime minister job when Boris got it, and he has a podcast with Alistair Campbell. What, Rory Campbell? No, Rory somebody.
Okay.
I just wonder whether he would be somebody. I mean, he's not in government, but he might be somebody who would be worth writing to. I don't know.
Yes, I mean,
Rory
Gallagher.
No. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Find it.
Well, it might matter. I mean, I think that is the sort of thing we want to do. I think, Richard, have you got your hand up because you didn't take it down, or have you got it up because you want to participate in this line of? Okay, well then we'll go to Richard. I have other things to say, but Richard, we'll go to you again.
Yes, it wasn't a long thing, but
it doesn't matter. I just
okay. One of the things that Valerie, she made several very good points, one of which chimed with me, which was two things. One is, what are British values and why can't we state what they are? And secondly, the Labour government's approach to dealing with reform. The two things, to me, are sort of properly tied together. And one of the things that, I mean, I joined the Labour Party a long time ago, and I knew exactly, when I joined the Labour Party, I knew what values the Labour Party stood for, and they were easily distinguishable from most of the other political parties. And I think that from my knowledge of Labour Party members that you meet, they share the values that I have. And I would like to think that our members of Parliament and our government also share those Labour values. And I believe that the best way of dealing with reform is for Keir Starmer to stand up and say, these are my values, these are the Labour government's values, and this is what we stand for. And a lot of that would be against reform because reform don't stand for those values at all. And to me, that would be such a good thing to do, a breath of fresh air. And to be honest, those people who vote reform, or a lot of them, they aren't going to switch to Labour because we're Labour. So, but we need to bring back the people who are in the middle, who really don't know at the moment what Labour values are. We appear to be labelled, admittedly by a biased media, with being, just the same old doing what the Tories do, which is not true at all. But we need to stand up and say that. And to me, there can't be enough opportunities for the Prime Minister to ideally say it clearly. And to me, PMQs, Prime Minister's questions, are an opportunity to actually to restate your values. And I feel that he needs to get a new advisor, doesn't he? So I agree with Valerie that we need to be clear as a Labour Party and as a Labour government what British values mean to us. And if we made that clear, I think it would help a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, or can I have my tuppence worth? That's a phrase my dad used to use, tuppence worth. I don't know where that came from. Why that came into my head. I think that my contribution isn't going to be isn't going to chime necessarily very well with Boleyn's ambitions, which is not because I have a lack of sympathy or a lack of appreciation for the position in which so many of his people find themselves. I do. But I think that we also have problems that are very deep-seated within the Labour Party and the Labour government that Richard has just alluded to, and Valerie. I think we need to get back to our values, and we have quite a struggle on our hands doing that. And I think Tim and Valerie had John Cruddas to talk once, twice, was it? I can't remember. And certainly his book, A Century of Labour, and his ideas were very much to do with getting back to Labour values. Labour values really would see the Labour Party a lot more sympathetic and a lot more open to negotiation on the question of immigration and the questions that Boleyn is raising, quite legitimate questions, than the present situation we find ourselves in. I'm probably going to say too much, so somebody needs to shut me up and act as a quasi-chair. I think I'll appoint Richard. He's good at that sort of thing. Richard, you're appointed to shut me up when necessary. I think that it reminds me when I used to go around talking to Labour student, what are they called, societies or whatever, in universities, and noticing over the course of 3 years, this was during Thatcher's administration, that everything kept shifting further to the right. The whole foundations for the debate kept shifting to the right. And what I'm feared about is that actually the rise of reform has had the same sort of effect. It shifted political debate rightwards and into things that I didn't think. Laws like the Palestine like labeling Palestine Action terrorists, which I think I can say something about very briefly. I mean, I'm not going to go say much more about it than that, but I don't think that the Labour Party we used to, we joined, with the values that it held and displayed, would have been likely to have condemned Palestine Action as being a terrorist organisation. And indeed, 3 high-ranking judges of the realm have declared it to be illegal, whatever happens to a subsequent appeal, which is almost certain. So I think we have a deep problem. I think migration is one of the key things that we have to deal with, and I would like to do everything we possibly can to encourage Boleyn to continue to hold this candle and to continue to try to do all we can to support it. But really, there are widely different views about immigration within Europe, within the politics that we operate within. I'm trying to get a speaker from Spain that's kind of as close into the kind of Spanish Prime Minister realm as possible, because his approach to immigration is so much very, very different to that of the UK government. And I'm waiting for confirmation from from a theorist whose ideas on migration I don't terribly much share, but has been quite influential in government decision making and policy making and approaches. So I really want to keep the debate about immigration going, but I think it is very much a debate. I think we badly, badly need something I haven't found, and I'd like to know whether anybody here has, or and I will certainly continue to try to investigate. But we need an approach to immigration that is different, that actually is not a weaker version, a more kind of a paler version of reforms, which we seem to be in danger of adopting in the Labour Party, because for some reason, and this has happened not only in the UK but in other European countries as well, social democratic parties seem to believe that if they shift a bit further to the right, they will actually be able to take votes away from and defeat parties of the far right. And parties of the far right are not going to help immigration, as we well saw the other night during the meeting on ICE enforcement in Minneapolis. Which the good note of the day is that ICE have retreated from Minneapolis, but we don't quite know where they've gone yet. So I think we need to keep chipping away, and we need to contact people. We are not easily going to get the UK government to bend in front of however many statistics we like to throw at them, but we are going to get a change in policy if we can start to come up with different approaches. Now, I want to ask Balen a question at the end of this, and then when Balen's responded to my question, perhaps I can go over to, I think it might be Tim this time. Balen raised 3 points, and one is communication and culture, and it's absolutely true that there's no point in the UK government trying to issue discouraging words that aren't couched in the right way, in the right phraseology, using the right terminology for people to accept them. And the second thing is we have to keep coming up with statistics, as Belen has. The notable one I didn't see in your work, Belen, and I wanted to ask you about, was any evidence that the approach of the British government, which clearly is what we need to aim at changing, and is based partly on an idea that if they keep trying to enforce criminal networks and discourage them, is there any evidence that then discouragement of criminal networks is having any success at all? And is there any evidence from your side of the fence, as it were, Belen, that the disasters of illegal immigration are diminishing at all the attempts at illegal immigration by people from Kurdistan? So is there any evidence that any effort on the part of the UK government or on the part of Kurdistan administration is having any impact at all? Because I don't think it is. And I think what we really need to look towards is some sort of better negotiated settlement between different countries about how they tackle immigration, because they're not getting it right. They're not having any impact at all. Nobody's bending. People that want to go to Britain are still trying to get there, however much it costs them and however many lives are risked and lost. And people in the UK seem to be intransigent in their determination that they shouldn't arrive. And there has to be a new negotiation over that, a kind of quid pro quo. If we relax the education restrictions, the quota restrictions, will there be a diminution in illegal immigration, Belen? All of these questions we need to keep chipping away at. And I'm sorry, I'm probably not very articulate, but we really do need to get this right, and we really do need a fresh approach to view this with fresh eyes. Belen, would you like to come back on me? And then we'll go to Tim.
Yeah, for the disruption things, it is just like an example. When someone get called that person may has discharge, let's say. We should not deal with the discharge. We should not how can I say, we should not managing the symptoms. We have to manage the main causes. So if there is a disruption, let's say between Kurdistan and Turkey smugglers, and because there is a high profit in that job, when you disconnect, wherever you disconnect, they try to build a new connection. So that's why I'm saying embassies, UK embassy here in Iraq and consulate in Erbil in Kurdistan, they have to dive deep into this issue. They have to understand, like they have to collect some new data, fresh data of 2026. What are the forces now, today, that affecting these people to think in that way, that pushing them to leave the country? Because now what's happening in Kurds in Syria and what's happening in Kurds in Iran and here in Kurdistan, it is generating a new forces. While I'm making this presentation, there are new forces. Like if I have some professionals in collecting and analyzing data, we can produce some new forces even tonight. Because of the unstable political situation here in this region, in the Middle East, there are so many variables affecting our system. So we cannot just have a look at the issue in one angle. There are so many angles. That's why I just showed some causes or some forces here in this presentation due to the limited short of time that we have. That was first. And secondly, I promised not to be biased. I have some opinion, I have some assumptions, but since it is not evidence-based, I try to not to be included in the presentation. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought your
No, I accept that. I mean, I accept that absolutely. I just, the whole question, it's just such a complex and tortured question. And in many cases, it's just resulted in different countries being absolutely intransigent in their position. They're not going to bend at all. They're not going to, people aren't going to stop trying to get to Britain, and Britain isn't, and other countries aren't going to easily accept them. And it's just a total net zero sum game, really. I mean, it's got to be some sort of negotiation so that both sides come out with something that's useful, that's valuable, that is important to them, and try to.
I don't disagree with that. We need to look at, we need to take account of the data that Barlin has shown us and disregard our rather flimsy opinions on what the British electorate might accept. And to me, we underestimate people's ability to understand facts. And therefore, we go along with these tales that they get told, whether it be on social media or by political parties, and we accept that as being what everybody's view is. And I don't believe that is, from my understanding of most voters. And I think, we need to have more open immigration, and we don't need to make such a fuss about it.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have it, but we need to make Britain and the government understand, not the British people, but the British government. We need to make them understand that it's economically and it's socially and it's politically better to open our doors and to have more open immigration than they currently think. And that's what we need to do. We need to say to them, look, this is why it's a good thing to do.
No, well, all those things are good, but morally, to me, is the most important thing. And if we're going to be an immoral government, why have we got a Labour government at all? Let's vote reform.
It's not morality, it's not moral.
Well, I don't think that's what I'm saying, really. I just think it's a question of of changing hearts and minds, isn't it? I mean, the
I
Spanish
think it's more
government
than
have got
that,
a very
frankly.
different approach. Sorry, go on.
I think it's more than that. I think we need, I mean, I'm not saying anything against the things that have been said, but I think we need to not forget that the situation is extremely difficult. The world being as it is today, the number of people who have ambitions that they can put into practice to go to some other country, including the United Kingdom, that they're not in at the moment, legally or otherwise, is so much greater than the recipient countries could possibly benefit from or accept. That the migratory challenge is enormous. And I would go further than that. I would say it's also impossible for the countries, for so-called destination countries, of which the UK is certainly one, to control or stop that migration. Especially impossible to control illegal migration. I recommend John Lanchester's novel The Wall for anyone who is in need of being reminded of the dystopia that awaits us at the end of the road. So what we're talking about here is helping the government of the country, which we have some connection, and are trying to help them serve the country better, to minimize a situation which is potentially impossible. And there are some that's so important today to hear from Balen, that clear evidence that some of the things that have been done in a part of the world which he has a lot of knowledge about, some of the things that have been done for reasons that we understand in general, although we don't accept in particular, done to limit the recent normal visa application routes, to restrict, in other words, legal migration, for whatever combinations of reasons, that those restrictive measures on legal migration are clearly feeding illegal migration in ways that Balan's provided us with. I mean, I know Balan is saying he's being very careful not to claim more on the basis of the evidence than it can strictly be done. But the evidence is really important and needs to be sent forward, because the relationship we can't have the relationship between legal migration policies, which should be subject to a whole range of different kinds of considerations, carefully brought together, just be determined by some attempt to combat an identitarian populism which wants to restrict immigration to not only restrict immigration to the UK, but get rid of parts of the United Kingdom's population because they are of the wrong religion or ethnicity or national origin. And I mean, I went through 2 stages of immigration to the United Kingdom before eventually being granted indefinite leave to remain without having asked for it. It was just stamped in my passport at Dover by an immigration officer who said, "I think you've worked here long enough." And it had gone 5 years, and I eventually got indefinite leave to remain just from having carried on. But of course, if my situation back then, if I'd lost the job I had and had to go into the labor market, if a little circumstance had been different, my situation would have been different then. And I think we need, if we're trying to try and restore any kind of more normal kind of set of immigration policies for the United Kingdom, which allow morality, ethical considerations to be brought together with estimations of the economic and social needs of the country and the economic and social needs of other countries and Britain's role in the world in relation to them.
Absolutely.
Then we need to take off go in more than one direction from what Balin has set out before us. It seems to be one of the directions that has just a bit been mentioned so far, which needs more underlining and could be the subject of subsequent Labour International events, is to do with foreign policy. There are several aspects of foreign policy which have in the past and do now impact on the economic welfare, economic development potential, and political stability of many other countries. And there are countries in the world, such as Iraq, where past actions of UK governments have had enormous economic, social, and political consequences, which one has to say are not entirely positive, although not entirely the opposite. So I think we need to connect up when thinking of things we're going to advocate for the Labour government, while the country still has one. We need to be able to return to the question of foreign policy, because the way that foreign aid has been curtailed, it's cost my branch, members who resigned over that alone. The way it's been curtailed so that money can be spent on arms, for example. We need to be able to say that if Britain had better foreign policies in relation to countries that we know something about, and we know a little bit more now about, especially the Kurdish parts of Iraq, thanks to Balin, that could contribute to reducing the illegal migration push for a whole range of different kinds of reasons. Now, it's a very complex subjects, and there are things that, require a lot of additional work. But the idea that our government is just cutting out all of this area of responsibility and work in relation to these different dimensions of foreign aid and their impact, and then expects to be able to control migration just by repression, just by police and military type intervention, it's never going to work. And Balin is giving us a heads up that it's reminding us that that is definitely something that needs to be on our agenda.
Yes, I think Balin has his hand up. Do you, Balin?
Thank you.
I wouldn't, before he does come back on that, Tim, I wasn't trying to suggest that our government's approach to immigration is correct. I mean, far from it. I just think that we do need to take a broader view and a more complex view than I think we often think. And including foreign aid in that discussion would very much be part of that broader, deeper view. Balin.
Yeah, I just want to show you another angle. We have something called cost-efficient analysis. If you compare the cost of 10 people who land on the UK in comparison of educating 100 people, 100 persons here in Kurdistan before they make the decision. UK asylum system has to provide £1,000 for those who are landed on the UK, right? Because they reach the land. But if we have a plan to spend much less than that to educate people, to show them the reality of or the consequences of the decision, what they make, but differ than the digital campaign that the UK now is implementing on social media, believe me, the data will show us something that we cannot believe. I just want to add that.